Employee retention, a brief overview on how to keep your current employees from an HR organizational diagnosis. First, you need to look at the job analysis, which you can break down into three important categories. First, your job description, what the job holders do, how they do it, and why they do it. Job specifications. The specifications delineate the KASOs deemed necessary to perform the job. And your job evaluation, techniques based on job analysis that attempts to determine the relative value of worth of a particular job or jobs to organizations so that the salaries can be set in a fair manner based on the contribution of the jobs. Next, you have your employee training, which is very important. A lot of things can go either way on your employee training. Companies may hire people who appear to be the most skilled or the best fit from the applicant pool they have received. Employees may still need on-the-job training or organization-specific training to do the job they are being hired for effectively. Training is very important to organizations. Even seasoned or experienced employees must need some training or retraining because of changes in the job or the organization. Training is important for the continued personal and professional growth of the employees and the organization. Some common items needed for successful employee training are open communication. Your new hire needs to feel comfortable in talking with the person who is doing their training with questions, comments, concerns, anything that may come to their mind. They need to feel comfortable in talking those ideas and opinions out with the person who's training them. Set goals throughout the training, not just your start and your finish goal. Set stair steps along the way so they can keep track of where they're at within their own training. Training needs to be focused and condensed into sections. You want to focus on your first section, then your second, then your third, and so on. You want to condense these sections down to where they're multi-focused in that one area so they can get that area completely under their belt, completely understood, and know where to go next. You don't want to have a little bit of training in one section and then 2 weeks later go to something else and then 2 weeks later go back to that first section. You will not be able to retain any of that information and it'll all become confusing for that hired individual. Rewards for completion is another good thing to have. And this could be rewards during the completion of the training or at the end of completion of training. They need to feel that they are being rewarded and what they are doing matters and it means something not only to them but to their organization. Another thing is raises for upskilling or for reskilling. So you have an employee who's been there for a while, but they're needing to relearn aspects of the job that have changed over time due to organizational shifts. Learning in these new aspects should come with some type of a compensation bump. You can't expect someone to just continue to learn new items and new skills and new processes without there being some kind of benefit in it for them as well. Compensation. This is a big one, more so from the employee standpoint than from the organizational standpoint. A lot of employee retention falls under this category as they do not feel they are being compensated appropriately for the work that they are being done. A few ways to combat this would be to have longevity raises in which someone has been there for so many years, they get a percentage of their wage. This can also be classified as a bonus. So if in budgeting there's an issue between your raises and bonuses, or if there are different spend line item, you can differentiate between the two. There are also merit raises, where you give raises out for jobs well done. You could also do raising of current salaries when they hire new employees. The reason for this is because a lot of new hires are hired on at the same rate as a senior employee is. You can have a supervisor who's been with a company for 10 or more years, and they're going to be making the same amount as a supervisor that's being hired within this next week. You have to take into consideration of the compounding wages and the compression that you're going to be dealing with in the years down the road. You can't just say, oh, right now it looks good on paper. We're going to make this budget. We're going to stay out of the red and everything's going to be good, because in 5 years, your new supervisor will be making more than the one that had been there 10 years when they were hired. And that's if they get that 2.5% COLA raise or something else happens, but you will run into compression issues along the way, and your more senior employees will tend to leave if they are not being compensated for the time that they have put in for the organization. Again, it raises for learning a new skill. We kind of touched briefly on that previous slide. Going back to school, learning new skills for the job, reskilling, upskilling, anything that benefits not only the employee but the organization as a whole should be compensated for. Again, this is just a brief overview and explaining how we can combat employee retention from an HR organizational diagnosis. We could go into a lot further detail on this if needed be, but I just wanted to touch base on the top 3 that I feel are the most important that we need to look at.